Day 20 will be spent in Salt Lake City. First, we'll go out and see the Great Salt Lake State Park, then go to the zoo, and then go down and see Mormon Square. As we head to the Great Salt Lake State Park, we see the light rail coming into town, bringing people from the outskirts. As we head to the lake, we'll first pass Salt Air. It was built as a resort here in 1893. Many fires burned it down. Eventually it was rebuilt as this replica in 1891, but it flooded very shortly thereafter as water levels rose. And now as the water has gone down, it's used as a concert venue. In the early 1920s, 500,000 people visited this each year. As we continue on to the state park, you'll notice that the Salt Lake is surrounded by salt marshes on all sides. As we arrive at the state park, you'll notice that the mountains are covered by clouds today, and we'll be visiting the marina first. As you can see from here, we're at the southern end of the lake, and you can see various islands and other structures there. Here we see Antelope Island. It is a nature preserve, and you have a causeway out to it. Then we come to Promontory Point, Corrigan's Island, and finally Stansbury Island, which isn't really an island at all. Then we're back at the shoreline and the marina and the mountains with their snow-capped still. The lake is fed by 3 different river systems, but since there's been such a drought out west lately, you can see that the lake is at one of its historically low levels, over 25 feet below normal. This is the largest remnant of Lake Bonneville that covered a huge area out west, including the Bonneville Salt Flats. It's the largest lake west of the Mississippi River, and in places is over 35 feet deep. Its salt content is 25% compared to 33% for the Dead Sea and 3.5% for the ocean, and its salt has commercial usage. There is life in this salt water as opposed to the Dead Sea, and brine shrimp are used commercially. They put a boom out and collect their eggs and use these to hatch and feed tropical fish in aquariums. Another form of life here is the brine flies that you can see here in the black streak on the shore. They're used by the local birds as a main food source. As we head out to the zoo, it starts to rain, but it'll quit before we get there, and so we can have a nice time in the Hogle Zoo. Let's take a look around the zoo. This is a relatively small zoo, and a large section still under construction, so it won't take us long to look around. Let's get started. He's looking right at you.
Hawks here in Utah. It's too cold for them during the winter months.
Hello, Poco.
Hello, Poco.
Again.
Hello, Poco.
Well, hello, Poco. Let's see if you can do some animal sounds for us. Can you do a dog? Okay. That's not bad. Let's try something tougher. A rooster. Okay, how about a cat? Well, let's try something tougher. How about Bugs Bunny?
There's the owl.
When we went right to it, that's just how they run in the water. Well, let's shut that clicker off. We've got another one. Here. Clicker's off, bringing down to the front. Now, barn owls are found worldwide, which means we can see them right here in Utah.
Come over here.
And Gerald, what do we do with all those nice $5 bills?
Challenging pets. They bite hard, scream loud, and they can live. They live for a long time. Can you say goodbye? Bye. And that's our blue gold macaw, which we have right here in Utah. We're going to bring him across the theater, right over your heads. Now, vultures, they are carrion eaters, which means that they eat dead animals. Yet, unlike most birds, there he goes. And one more time, we're going to bring him across.
Turn over here.
Now, I'm going to get him to follow me all the way up here. And if you have a camera, get your cameras ready because our owl is going to come swooping right here, right over your heads for an up-close encounter and a great photo opportunity.
Similar to our red-tailed hawk that we have here in North America. You can see it has a reddish-colored tail.
Do you see the
Both the
red-tailed
red-tailed hawk of
bird?
North America and the otter buzzard feed on small mammals, birds, and reptiles. Now, often when we think... Now, the golden eagle can be found on several continents in the northern hemisphere, including North America, which means that we have them right here in Utah. They are impressive birds with a wingspan that can stretch 6 feet. And when they fold up those wings and dive, Golden eagles have been clocked at speeds of 120 miles an hour. Surprises many to learn they can live to be 50 years old. The golden eagle.
Next on our agenda is to head downtown to Salt Lake City and see Mormon Square and the Mormon Temple and its various buildings there.
Then turn left on East Northern Temple.
First we'll look at the church history library and then we'll walk across the main street into the Temple Square itself. There on the Temple Square we'll look at the various places in Mormonism. We've looked at the church history library, we'll go see the temple, and then we'll go over to the visitor center and find out more about what goes on here. Go look at the tabernacle before leaving. First let's start with the conference center. The conference center is designed to kind of look somewhat like what they thought the Hanging Gardens of Babylon might look like, and this is where they have various meetings and conferences when they need to have them. Across the street is the temple, topped by Moroni. This temple is one of their most sacred sites, and since it has been consecrated, only Mormons can enter it. Before it was consecrated, though, temples can be entered by various people to see what's inside them. This temple was the sixth one that the Mormons have built, and they built more since then. It was dedicated in 1893 and is oriented toward Jerusalem. To have a proper marriage or baptism, you have to come to one of those temples, and this one has thousands of people here waiting to have their ceremonies done today, and this is the temple annex next to it. Next we'll go to the visitor center and see how this was built and how Mormons live. We'll also look at the various structures inside this temple that we can't go into. Above the floor is the Solemn Assembly Hall on the top floor. And in the basement is the baptismal font, shaped somewhat like what Solomon's might have looked like. On the next floor is the bride room. And then on the bottom floor also is the garden room where they have various ceremonies. The park surrounding the temple is beautifully landscaped with thousands and thousands of flowers. Next, I'll go to visit the Mormon Tabernacle. It actually can be entered because it's not a sacred site. It's just a place where they have worship. And this is where the famous choir sings. And then it's time to say goodbye to the Mormon Square and to head to our hotel, ending day 20.